Okay, we're going to do one more try here and see what happens. Let's see. Let's see where we are with this here. Yeah. And this is what that looks like in here. We can see that the idle and everything goes back. This year, I think the gauge gave up on me. And the reason why that is because I had this first when it was cold, when the exhaust was cold. When the exhaust was cold, it would go all the way up to 3. And at idle, it went all the way up to the green position here where it says idle on the lower one. And what I think is because these gauges are not very high quality gauges is once I got hot exhaust fumes going into this thing basically went kaput, and now it doesn't show the pressure correctly anymore. That's what I think at the moment. So the first test was where we went into the red, and it clearly indicated it. As the engine warmed up and the hot exhaust gases entered this gauge stopped working or showing anything correctly. Unless I have a hole in this hose going down there, which I doubt that I have, because I didn't drive very far. The symptoms of this were as follows. It started about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was only noticeable around 3,500 RPM on the highway. And then eventually it got progressively worse over time. So this was not a instantaneous failure where it is going now, where it is at this point, where you can see it that it is doing that at 1,500, and I hardly basically can drive at all. Now, the interesting thing is this here. I had the ECU disconnected, is connected now back in here. That's why the check engine light is on and the oxygen sensor is disconnected, so that's the reason for it. It is no difference. And like I said, I checked the pressure, the system pressure and the working pressure, and they are exactly within specs. And the unit also, the ECU controls the lambda regulation correctly with the post enrichment and everything else. The only thing I have not taken out is the spark plugs. And the reason why is because if the spark plugs are fouled, you usually have a problem starting the vehicle. We can see this here. Let me just show you this. The car starts without any issues. It doesn't matter if the engine is cold, really cold, or if it is here now at the, warm-up phase. It really doesn't make any difference. And we can see the economy gauge is 0. There's no leaks in the system whatsoever. It is also not a... See this? We can go up to 2,500. And then only if we go over 2,500, we can see this. And now it tells us we have no back pressure. But it is a different story when it was cold. And now you can see on how this actually falls off. I'm holding the accelerator at the same level where we were just at. I have not changed it. It just slows down. As more as the temperature comes up, as worse this whole thing gets. See, I released the gas a little bit. It comes back up. And then I cannot get over it. I'm holding it here, but there's nothing. And the warmer this gets, as worse this problem actually gets. And that is now, without this gauge here showing the correct So this is not correct what this was showing. This was much higher early on. It was in the red when I first connected this gauge here. So you can see how difficult this all is. This gauge here was, like I said, it was 28 bucks. The other for $55 is probably not going to make a big difference on it. I returned the exhaust, and that is part of this video. You will see this because Rock Auto had sent the wrong exhaust over here. I will keep you guys posting. This is a kind of a confusing video because this is all a little bit out of sequence as I'm doing this. But all the checks, the normal checks associated with the fuel injection system, I did perform, and that is all working. We know that the valve systems, the timing with valves, open and closing valves, is correct and working properly too, because otherwise the car would not start. If we had any issues, any vacuum leaks somewhere, the car would not start. You would have, problems just idling and starting the vehicle. And the car will always return back into the idle position without any problems. It is just when I go and step on the accelerator that we're running into this, and that is temperature dependent. As warmer the engine gets, as worse the problem gets. And like I said, unfortunately our gauge is out, but the initial testing showed a pressure reading of 3.5 psi. Was this in bar? Yeah, about, what would that be in bar? 0.21 bar, about 3.5 psi in the red. So there's definitely issues in there. The other thing is, what was really prevalent is when the engine is hot and I was driving, especially in the city, when you get to a stoplight, you could, and you had the blower on for the heat, you could smell the exhaust coming in here. The blower would pull in the exhaust leak from somewhere out of the engine bay, and it gave you a very nauseating smell in here, fumes. So that was another indication in this. I will keep you guys posted as we go along here to troubleshoot this. I have seen many videos, or not many videos, virtually no videos with this issue, and only a few posts on the bulletin, on the websites, on those forums in Germany and here, where people had experienced a similar problem, but there was never a follow-up on what the actual issue was, how to get it resolved, and that sort of stuff. We keep you posted. Okay. So I got the old one out, and it does not have a crack, but if we look at the ring here, which sits on the not carburetor, I said the control valve, the throttle, on the throttle body, we can see that this has pulled itself out, and when the vacuum was high enough, it bypassed it here. On the new one, it looks like this. You can see this, and you can see and how this has worked its way out over time, and it cracked in here on the left side. So this is where this is the Achilles heel. This is the new one. The new one was made in 2017. Same company, number one, I guess that's the die, as this one here. And this was made in 2017. So the hardness, this is still soft actually, but this is softer. So this is after 4 years, both of them the same age. This just came from Mercedes-Benz. This one is the one I had in here, but I don't think that this is the complete problem yet. I took this out, so I'm going to put this back together, put it in there, and see what we're going to have here with the boot. And then comes the exhaust stuff. So now I'm in the car, and I don't know how I should start the video. I have a segment. I hope, first of all, that you made it good through the holidays. Happy New Year to everyone. And I actually started backwards. I made a segment yesterday changing the boot out, and the boot turned out not to be the problem. There is some issues with the boot which could develop at the later point, so I decided to change it. That will be a part of the segment of this video. And now what I did is I disconnected the oxygen sensor, and I've got this pressure tester. There's two versions of this here available. There's a kind of a name brand for $55, and then this here is the same version as the $55, but without the plastic case, and with this here for $28. I do not think that either one of them are very accurate, but you will see. When I first installed it, I may have a slight kink in it, because there comes like with 6 feet of air hose, which you see here, going through the hole along on the channel out to the hole where the oxygen sensor normally is mounted to. And we can see, so we can start the car. The car starts up pretty easy. The problem is right around 1500 RPM. And you can see this on the economy gauge. Whenever that vacuum is collapsing, the needle moves from the zero position to the middle or to the end. And that's when the engine makes that noise. And that's when we can actually see pressure coming up. When I first installed this, I may have, like I said, I may have a kink in this. It would go all the way up to 3 at about 2500 RPM. It was between 2.5 and 3. Then it varied throughout, but you can see this as soon as the vacuum goes out, I have back pressure here. And let me start the car up. So we can see that the car itself starts and idles okay with no issues. Of course, the check engine light is now on because the oxygen sensor is disconnected at the moment. And let me just show you what this looks like it here. Let me see if that lets me go back. So this is now the beauty Rock Auto sent to me, and it is completely warm. This is a Walker stainless steel muffler, so it is from the wrong company. And this thing costs $124 according to their list price over there on their website. That's a 56205, and I ordered the correct one for my car, which was made by a different manufacturer. So I got to Cayole this thing now. I put the return tag on it, and I put the label underneath here, because this is how they sent this to me. They had this here taped, with this shrink tube plastic wrap stuff on all ends, and they put that around it. So this is how I'm going to send this thing back. That's how it came. And I hope I'm not going to wind up in an argument, because Rock Auto cannot be reached by phone anymore. And if you look at the weld of this thing, so this is now Walker. I haven't seen this. This is supposed to be made in the United States too. But I'm not quite sure on who Walker had welding this. I'm not an expert. I cannot weld at all. And mine would have had holes, but this is just unbelievable if you look at this. This is my friend's welding table here, just if you were wondering. This is not my shop, this is my friend's shop, but he lets me use it. Another friend of mine. So this thing has to go back, and we're going to piecemeal this video here together, so whatever the next segment is the next segment.